Blessings and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in Exodus chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. And good reads from today. Exodus 6 and 9 talk about this idea of, and I got to be very careful here, this idea of rebellion. Because, and I think I mentioned this earlier, Moses does not lead a rebellion against Egypt and against Pharaoh. He does lead the people out once Pharaoh gives him permission, but God does his work to pave the way and the path for Moses and the Egyptians to leave. And Moses does not leave until he gets permission. But we see in verse 9 of chapter 6 that Moses does lead a rebellious people. He doesn't lead them in rebellion, but they are rebellious both towards him and to Egypt and to God. And anytime they show rebellion to Moses, they are showing rebellion to God, because Moses is God's man of authority. God even says, Moses, you will look like me. In other words, you will be my representative anytime you negotiate with Pharaoh. So anytime they rebel against Moses, they're rebelling against God. And this will last all through Egypt. Moses is going to lead them out and into the desert, and they rebel against Moses, and they get stuck in the desert for 40 years. We're going to see a lot of rebellion from these people, but just know that it's important to note here that Moses does not lead a rebellion. Rebellion is sin, and it is against God. So that is not what Moses is doing here. And then we're going to start seeing chapter 7, verse 14, and chapter 8, verse 1. God's going to systematically start destroying the Egyptian gods. Egyptian had a ton of gods, and they worshipped a lot of different things. The very first thing we see in 7:14 is they worship the Nile River. And so God tells Moses, you're going to turn it to blood for 7 days. And for 7 days, you're not going to be able to use the Nile. There's no drinking water. There's no water to feed their cattle, to water their crops. I mean, this is huge economically for the Egyptian people. And then Moses is going to, God's going to use Moses to go against the frogs. What country has a god over frogs? But Egypt does. So God's going to attack the frogs and show Egypt who's the true God. It made me think, what are the idols or the little gods in our lives that distract us from worship of the one true God, that get in the way of us staying in the path that He's called us to? The things that distract us and make us chase after something else when we should be chasing hard after God. Just like God destroyed all the little idols or the little gods of Egypt, He will destroy the gods of our life to get our attention. So we've got to be very careful and make sure that we only worship the one true God, because we don't want to find ourselves in a position where God's having to discipline us for running off the track or going somewhere where we're not supposed to be, and He has to grab us and bring us back. So stay on track, stay on the path. These are some good reads. There's going to be a lot of good lessons come out of Exodus. So tomorrow read Exodus 9, 10, and 11. Let's meet back here and talk about it tomorrow.